Hello and welcome back to art class. Today we're going to be wrapping up our monochromatic sea pictures, and in order to do that, it's pretty easy. We should have all the drawing pretty much completed today, or actually last week, and we're going to finish up the coloring of our project today. A reminder about monochromatic is it's basically a picture all of one color, all the light versions of that color and the dark versions of that color. In my picture, I have chosen a green. I know in the camera, it probably right this second looks a little bit more yellow, but this is actually a very yellow greenish color. It's technically a green. And then, and these are the three colors that I had to work with, because in Crayolas, usually you have about three versions of the color to work with. I have this, what's called green yellow. I have yellow green, and then I'm going to be using green. Other two colors that I will be using in this particular picture are going to be black and white. Now, if you remember from last week, there were other sets of colors you could choose from that would work for this project in the colored crayon box. You could have done pink. This violet red is what it's called, and then red. And when you test them out, pink is the lightest, violet red is next, and then red is the darkest. In this one, you could do yellow orange, and then red orange. Those will be lightest to darkest. For the blues, you could do blue green, cerulean, blue, and some boxes had a color called Bluetiful, which was a darker blue that you would have an option for. And then your purples, you could do indigo, which is kind of a bluish, purplish color, then blue violet itself, and then purple as the final color. So that's the set that you would be working with. All of these sets you'd have to use black and white with, which we'll discuss in just a few minutes when we actually get to the point of actually using the black and white. You may also want to have your pencil and eraser just in case there's something that you need to fix. Like I can see in the spot right there that I want to fix right now. Okay. Also last week we should have gotten to the point where you had chosen your color already. I have chosen the greens, so this whole picture will be different versions of green. This water up here was supposed to be the shallow water, and this is going to be the deeper water. So the deeper water should be darker. So I'm going to go to the next darkest and use, this is, for me, it's going to be called yellow green. And I got to go and outline the spaces that are going to be worked. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll do the coloring. So I'm going to speed this up. Okay, so now I have my shallow water, my deeper water. Now I need to do the ground. Okay, ground's gonna be, we're gonna go even darker. We're gonna go with the regular green for that. So again, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna outline everything, and then I'm gonna color it in. So again, I'm gonna fast forward. Okay, now I have my three levels. What am I going to do about these giant blank areas? Well, I do have actually a solution for that, and that's where these black and whites are going to come in. We're going to mix them together with our color. So I'm going to mix a little bit of black into my white. Now, last week I did talk about doing some painting. So the way you would do this with painting is you'd pick your color, like let's say you pick green like I did here. You'd have to add white to make a lighter, really, really light green. Then you'd have to remix a color and make a little bit less white, so it would be a little bit darker, and then you'd use your regular color, and then in certain areas you'd start to add black like what we're doing here. So it is possible to do this in paint as well. You just have to do a little bit more mixing with blacks and whites to lighten and darken the color. Usually you'd have to have a nice palette or something to do all that mixing on there. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to take our green, and it's just regular green at this point, and you're going to outline your fish. So if you were working with the reds, red set, you would actually just be working with red, If you were doing the orange, at this point you would be using the red-orange. If you were doing the blues, you would be working with just regular blue at this point. And if you were working in the violets, you would be just working with regular violet on this part. So you're going to outline. Go around the eye. The eye is going to stay blank for right now. And I need you to fill in the fish. I changed the coloring direction that I'm working on. My ground is going side to side, so I want my fish marks that I'm coloring to go up and down. That way I know that they won't look exactly the same. And I know right now they match. We're gonna change that in a second, but I have to put my layer of green on first. So I'm gonna go in and color this green. Okay, so I have my green. Right now, they are matching. We can't keep that way. So that's where the black is gonna come in handy. I'm gonna go in and lightly, I stress the word lightly, gently, softly, go in and add black over the top. I'm not trying to cover my green, I'm trying to mix it a little bit. Now, I know crayons don't generally mix, but we're gonna do a little bit of black, just very gently over the top. Okay, then I'm gonna add a little bit of green back over the top to kind of squish it between them to make sure this looks more like dark green instead of just black on top. So I'm gonna squish some green over the top, make it a bit more solid. That's really how color mixing is done, is by layering the colors. Okay, so now I have my extra dark green. I need to do the same thing for these two plants. Leave the bubbles alone. We got a different thing for them. But I want the two plants here to be dark green. So it's gonna do the same process. I'm gonna put green down first. Then I'm gonna put lightly some black. Then I'll put some green over the top. That way it makes it extra dark. I am gonna fast forward through that so you don't have to watch me do it in slow-mo or regular time. Okay, so we now have the really dark greens for the plants and for the fish. You want them black, and the black is gonna be for the eye. So you're gonna go in, the eye. I also wanna put in some really, you're gonna have to push kind of hard to do this, some gills, so the fish can breathe underwater. And I do like to actually put a few lines in the tail so it looks a little bit more natural. Okay. So we're almost done. Oh, I just realized with the black, I also like to put a little line underneath the plant so it looks like it's growing out of the mud or the muck that's on the bottom there. Just looks a little bit more natural with the line underneath. Notice that the line does not cut across the next plant over, it's just right at the bottom there. Okay, so there's one last thing I want to do, and that's the bubbles. And in order to do the bubbles, this is where your eraser kind of comes in handy. I want you to first go in, and if you can, it may not be possible depending on how you outlined, go in and see if you can get rid of the pencil lines, because they're going to be kind of distracting, or at least lessen so maybe they're not as strong. So like in this one, I can't get rid of them, but I can make it lighter. So I couldn't get rid of all of them, but I could make them a little bit lighter. Okay, next, what you're gonna do is you're gonna fill in with the white. I know it's white on white, so it's gonna be hard to see. Just fill it in, do the best you can. Then you're going to take your lightest version of the color. So for me, my lightest version of green is this green-yellow. If you're working with the reds, the lightest version is going to be your pink. If you're working in the oranges, your lightest version is going to be the yellow-orange. If you're working in blue, the lightest version is going to be your blue-green. And your lightest version from the purples will be this indigo. All right, so very, very, very gently or very, very softly, you're going to give the white a tint. So very gently, just barely go over it to tint it a smidge green or red or orange or blue. That way it's not pure white anymore, it's tinted just a smidge with the green. And I know in the camera it's really hard to see this, but mine has just a smidge of green tint to it now, so it's not pure white. That way my whole picture is now a monochromatic picture. Okay. What I want to do is, now that you can see how it's done, I do have two other ones I have completed before this, just to show you what it can look like with the other colors. Now, I don't have one for everybody, but I wanted to give you some basics. So you know what the green one looks like. Here is what the red one would look like. So this is the pink, this is the violet red color, and this is the red. So this is what yours could look like with that color. And I have one other one. This is the one with the blues. Okay. I just wanted to give you a few examples so you had an idea of what yours could look like. Okay. Steps are all the same. This one you have a little bit easier time seeing that I did a little bit of the blue-green in there, which showed up a little bit nicer. And you might be able to see the pink showing up a little bit in this one too. The green is a little bit harder to see. All right, once you're completed, what I need you to do is snap a photo of your completed one and upload it to Seesaw for me. The other thing, since we're at the end of this particular assignment, is if you really liked yours and yours turned out really, really well, you can take a photo of yours, just like we did in the last project with the virtual art show. Do all the same steps. You take and put it on your iPad, transfer it to your iPad, and then upload it to Padlet. I will leave the old assignment for the virtual art show up, and you can go back to it, and you can upload this photo to the virtual art show. Just let me know in the comment section when you do that, so that I know that to go back and look and approve. Okay. And I'll see you next week.